Hello YouTube, my name is Jamie Bisson. I am a transgender nerd. On Wednesdays I do nerd related videos, on Sunday I do transgender related videos. And I was originally planning on doing a totally different video, got about 10 minutes into the recording of that, and suddenly decided to do this one instead. So I was going to do a video about the fact that I don't do a very effective job of passing, but it was just a long, boring rant, so I decided. But as I was doing it, the subject of how I came out as trans sort of popped into my head, and I decided, okay, that's what I'm going to talk about. First of all, from the time I was, I guess, about 5 or 6 years old, right up until I was 10, I was obsessed with wanting to be a boy. It wasn't something I ever said out loud during that time, but some of the boys on my street had much cooler bicycles than I did, and my parents wouldn't let me get one that cool because I had to have a girl's bike and they had boys' bikes. I was very much into Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica, and there was this cartoon I used to love called Battle of the Planets. It was really basically just taking footage from a Japanese cartoon called Gotcha Man and adding some Americanized touches to it. But yeah, I used to love that. And to me, those things, even though I knew there were other girls who were into Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica and Battle of the Planets, at the same time, those things to me seemed like boys' things. And so, and then, I was just very much a tomboy. I wasn't allowed to climb trees, but my next door neighbors had a tree that could not be seen from my house that was perfect for climbing. So I spent a lot of time in that tree as a kid, I remember. And, I mean, anything boyish I loved. So from about 6 to 10, I was totally obsessed with wanting to be a boy. But I never told anyone. I just was very, very much a tomboy who was very not satisfied with being just a tomboy who wanted to be a real boy. And by the way, I know eventually if I'm going to continue these, I will have to learn video editing, but in the meantime, I'm not ready to learn that. There's too much else going on in my life, including just starting this YouTube channel. So if you see me, as I'm speaking, I am getting a little drool around the corners of my mouth. Periodically, I do have to do this. Sorry about that. But anyways, where was I? So from 6 to 10, I was totally obsessed with wanting to be a boy, but I never told anyone. And I kind of outgrew that once I outgrew the action figures and, that sort of thing. Yeah. And then, that was still in the back of my head. I grew up in an evangelical household, and I remember, I was going to like this church teen girls group that, one time, the leader of that asked, does anyone in this room ever wish they were a boy? And I believe I was the only hand that went up. I know I definitely raised my hand, and I'm pretty sure I was the only one, but, I mean, to me, even at 13 or so, I still wanted to be a boy. I remember in college, most of the crowd I hung out with was guys. There were some girls involved, but it was mostly guys, and, I tried as much as I could to be one of the guys. So that, there's always been that at the back of my mind, but, it got buried, and then, I kind of forgot about it, and then, I guess, and when I first started questioning my gender, when I first started questioning my sexuality back around early 2001, the more masculine lesbians were considered butches, and the image that they seem to have in like lesbian-related magazines and online and stuff, and also when I'm anytime I looked at lesbians-related materials, these butches were always portrayed as like the biker types with like the leather jackets, the cigarette hanging from the corner of their mouth, very unattractive looking. So I just really didn't bother to think about that much. And for a long time, I just really didn't get into lesbian culture because First of all, I was still stuck in an abusive marriage. My attempts to escape for many years just didn't seem to last. Finally, in 2010, I did escape permanently, but almost immediately I lost my job, and so because there had been some of the abuse in my marriage had been financial in nature, once I was unemployed, I made no effort to start dating, and then when I did start working, it was part-time minimum wage initially, so I still wasn't about to date until I was financially able to hold my own. And finally I was working full-time and working around a lot of by the time I had been working full-time, making halfway decent money for several months, I wound up working with a lot of LGBT co-workers, a surprising number for such a small department. But anyways, lots of LGBT co-workers, and that got me back into lesbian culture, and I discovered that, oh wait, those more masculine lesbians are now called studs, and they look really good. And at the same time I realized, so I started to embrace a slightly more masculine side of myself, and I went from being what would now be considered a STEM, which is in between the studs and the femmes, to being to deliberately trying to be more of a stud, and I did everything I could to masculinize my image. And I was still thinking of myself as a lesbian stud. I was not thinking of myself as a trans man at that time. Going through that, and at that time I started going through a lot of depression, anxiety, PTSD, stuff like that I associated with the fact that I live in a fairly abusive environment. And so I was like, okay, well, this is obviously just the cumulative effects of my mother's abuse. Okay, I just need to keep trying to find myself someplace else to live. And I did that. And then I discovered Ruby Rose and quickly learned that she called herself gender fluid, but was comfortable with she, her pronouns. So I went through this phase of, wow, that sounds good. I don't, this is something a little bit more masculine. This is more like what I'm trying to achieve. I like this. Because I was not yet ready to, embrace that I was trans. And in fact, during the entire time that I went through that gender fluid phase, which was, I guess, started sometime in July. So it was about 3 months, give or take, 2 to 3 months. But anyways, while I was going through that gender fluid phase, I kept thinking to myself this one thought over and over, because I happen to have an intersex condition called androgen insensitivity syndrome. And so I kept thinking, well, I'm gender fluid, but I can never come out as trans, because I know that there are trans people who don't transition, who don't, go on hormones, who don't get surgeries. But to me, that kind of would be the point of being trans. And, I didn't quite, because androgen insensitivity means, my body doesn't know what to do with testosterone, and at the time I was assuming you had to be on testosterone to have top surgery, and anytime an intersex child is assigned female, there's usually a surgery called a clitorectomy that is done, which means that it would be pretty close to impossible for me to ever get bottom surgery. So I was like, okay, I can't go on T, I can't get top surgery without T, and I can never get bottom surgery. Well, finally, like the day after my birthday, the day after my 46th birthday, I was watching a YouTube video from a transgender guy that I kind of like. He has a, really interesting YouTuber named Jackson Bird. Check out his channel, it's great. He does a lot of really great transgender videos, and he had a guest on that day, Ash Hardell. She is a non-binary person. She's pronoun indifferent, so that's why I'm referring to her as she, because she doesn't seem to mind. She likes she, her, they, them, he, him. She doesn't care. But anyways, so he had on this person named Ash Hardell who was about to get top surgery, even though this person is not on T. So that kind of sparked something. Wait a second. It's possible to get top surgery without T? And at that point, I was like, okay, yeah, let's. That started me thinking, and within about 2 days, I was like, okay, maybe I am ready to embrace this whole transgender thing. And I did it very slowly. Well, it seemed like it was very slowly at the time. I started hinting a little bit over the next 24 hours on Facebook that I was like, okay, I'm going to want a small group of people that I can confide something in and discuss something with. And one of the ones that responded, or two of the ones that responded were immediately like, reacting. One was like, I know what you're talking about, and the other one was like, you're transitioning to male, aren't you? So I was like, okay, well, maybe I wasn't quite as subtle as I thought I was. But, once I decided to embrace this, everything happened very quickly. The thought, I finally started to decide that maybe I am trans. I thought that on a Monday night. Tuesday, I put out the post asking for a small group of friends. Wednesday was my day off, and I posted a bunch to them, and that's when I first, experimented with having them start calling me Jamie. And by Thursday, I was like, everyone on my Facebook safe list, as I call it, started getting messages announcing that I was coming out as trans. And then Saturday night, after I got home from work that night, I told my mother. Got chewed out, of course. That's her. And then, once I dealt with that, I just sent my sister a text because I didn't want to change my name on Facebook without at least letting her know first. And of course, my sister, being the great person she is, was, sorry. Like I said, I don't know video editing, so yes, when my head just itched like heck for whatever reason, yeah, you saw me scratch. Oh well. Anyways. So I let my sister know. She was very great, she's a terrific person, totally the opposite of my mother. So anyways, I did let her know first, and then I went on Facebook and changed my name on Facebook to Jamie, and changed my gender to male. And then, even though I hadn't used Twitter in probably well over a year at that point, I did eventually do that on Twitter as well. My Twitter is Jamie Bisson FTM. I have a lot of trouble figuring out how to use Instagram. I went to try to, send a picture of my tattoo to someone, or to this tattoo, my wrist tattoo, to someone, and wound up, I can't. There you go. Okay. Anyways, I wound up accidentally sending a trans pride flag to that person instead, but fortunately that was a trans guy, so, yeah. Anyways, yeah, so, I very quickly came out as trans, and then, that's been how it happened. Incidentally, after I did except that I was trans, I did a little bit of further research and discovered my androgen insensitivity is partial androgen insensitivity. So I can actually go on T, and I will be going on T early in the year, I'm hoping. I'm thinking probably late January, early February. I'm not 100% sure on the timeline, but, also I might delay that. If I can find a local top surgeon that does not require someone to be on T, I might choose to get the top surgery first and then go on T, because I really hate my worst dysphoria by far is right here. I hate my chest with a passion like you would not believe. But anyways, so yeah, that's how I came out as trans. That's how I finally came to, accept myself as trans. And I hope that was interesting to you. It's still only been, about 5 or 6 weeks that I've been out as trans. But, it just I figured I'd go ahead and share that story. And I do want to thank you for watching. Have a great evening, or a great day, a great weekend, whatever.